Good evening. This is BelGeode, and we are back with some more Microsoft Flight Simulator. And tonight, I am finally pleased to showcase for you a really awesome bird. I dare say this one should change some of the standards for GA aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I am, of course, talking about this bird right here, the Milviz Cessna C310R. Now, I've had a long-term love affair with this bird from X-Plane days, actually. Even though it was available in P3D, it is not one of the ones that I picked up in P3D, but I did grab it in X-Plane and had a lot of fun with this bird. Now, if you know the history of Milviz, you know that them and X-Plane, or Laminar Research, had a bit of a falling out. So, unfortunately, they ceased all production on anything having to do with X-Plane. So this was one of the few birds that actually made it into the sim, and let me tell you, it was an absolute blast to fly. So when Microsoft Flight Simulator came out, we've been waiting for this one to actually make an appearance, and I'm pleased to say, now that it's here, not only did they match what they did in X-Plane, but in my opinion, they have surpassed it. And I'm going to be going through a lot of that when we get into the cockpit as we do our flight. But first, let's take a quick look. So we're going to open it up here. You can, of course, see all the various selections of aircraft that I have. And this is our bird here, the Milviz C310R. So you'll notice cruise speed 171 knots, max altitude of 20,000 feet, endurance of 7 hours, range of 1,283 nautical miles. Now, as far as the liveries go, we have a number of liveries that we can choose from, and already the community has started to add to this with different liveries. Each of these liveries that you're looking at here, it is important to note that the registration numbers are fixed. They are baked into the bird. So what you're seeing here is a replica of whatever these real-life planes are. This one I'm not so sure of because the registration number is basically Colin, who is, of course, one of the lead devs for Milviz. So I'm not 100% certain if this is a real plane or more kind of artistic license. But regardless, it is pretty cool. The one that we're going to be using is their main aircraft, which has a custom tail number. So, of course, we're going to be rocking the usual November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo. I kind of like this one because it's got a little mascot on the tail. I'm not 100% certain if the mascot is supposed to be like a meerkat or something like that, but it's cute, so we're going to use it. All right, now as far as weight and balance goes, we're doing things differently this time. We're actually not going to use the display that we are used to in order to set weight and balance, and I'm going to explain why once we get into the cockpit. There's a special way of doing it with this bird. Failures we're going to keep off. Again, it's something that I will address once we get into the cockpit. And then, of course, customization. As I stated earlier, we're going to be using my typical November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo. All right, so with all of that out of the way, where are we flying today? Well, if you look at Mother Earth, you can see the continent of Africa. You can see Madagascar, Saudi Arabia, India, and all the various other places. If we zoom in, now it's going to be a little difficult for you to see on the screen because honestly, the Bing maps that Microsoft Flight Simulator uses to represent the land masses on a planet, it's kind of sketchy. It is definitely kind of sketchy, but part of the reason why I want to show this place is because of the fact that the custom scenery that we're using, which I got from the marketplace, does flesh a lot of this out. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the country of Seychelles, which consists of several different islands. We're going to be taking a look at least two, our departure island and our arrival island. Plus, we'll take a look at some of the smaller islands along the way. So if you have been watching my X-Plane series, you will no doubt recall that we spent a fair amount of time in Seychelles looking at various aircraft. Well, FSDG has created this package that contains the two main airports in Seychelles, that being Praslin, which is where we're leaving from, and the international airport over by Victoria. I forget the exact name that they call this airport, but suffice to say you can see the ICAO code right there, Foxtrot Sierra India Alpha. That's where we're going to be landing. Now, additionally, they've created, I want to say about, I don't remember the exact numbers, either 13 or 19 or 14 or something along those lines. I want to say 14, but it'll pop up in the commentary below. Additional airstrips on the various islands, including Frigate Island, which is right here that we're going to be overflying. So that means that you can actually choose a number of the various little islands to puddle jump to in various aircraft. Now, since we are using the Milviz bird, this one is mainly geared for slightly larger GA airports. This is not going to be like in the last video that you saw where we're going to use like a STOL aircraft. So landing at Frigate is out of the question. But suffice to say, we should have a rather scenic tour around some of the various islands of Seychelles, and hopefully we'll be in for a pretty stunning approach into the main airport. So, with all that having been said, let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and hop into the Milviz, because it's going to take me a little while to go through all the various features that it comes with before we start up and take off. Alrighty, folks, I will see you in the cockpit. Alrighty, folks, so welcome, or in some cases, welcome back to Praslin. And I will remind you, this scenery is brought to us by FSDG. It is available in the InSim marketplace, so I would highly recommend that you grab it there if you're interested in flying around the Seychelles Islands. You can also find it other places. I'll have the links, of course, in the video description below. And then, of course, we have our chariot for the day, which is the Milviz 310R. And I gotta say, I'm really impressed for two reasons. Number one, the fact that they modeled everything faithfully. And as I mentioned when we were on the world map, they surpassed what they did in X-Plane 11's version of this aircraft. But also, the fact that with this particular aircraft, they have additional features to it, which, you know, gives it, how do I put it, a little bit more life. Now, you may ask, what am I talking about? All right, so those of you who are familiar with like FSX and P3D, you'll recall companies such as A2A Simulations. And one of A2A's claim to fame was the fact that with their aircraft, it's got a wear and tear system. You can actually treat this aircraft badly, and it will reflect in how the aircraft performs in subsequent flights. Well, a handful of developers have decided to add features like that to the Microsoft Flight Simulator aircraft in varying degrees of intensity. Most of the aircraft that are out there now, you know, you can have failures, random failures, so on and so forth. But it's not that often that you see a full fleshed out system where if you take care of this aircraft, it will reward you by staying in relatively good condition. And of course, over time, parts will wear down, so you'll have to replace them. But if you fool around, Well, you're going to find out as far as, whether or not this aircraft is going to do what you want it to do. And that, I think, is the standard that all aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator should strive to achieve. Now, whether or not every single user of Microsoft Flight Simulator really appreciates those kinds of things, that's up for debate. And honestly, I think if developers are going to include features such as Milviz has, then it should be optional, which of course Milviz has made it optional. You don't have to have the wear and tear on the aircraft. You could keep it in pristine condition at all times. You could have absolutely nothing fail on the aircraft if you want to. If you just want to hop in and fly and you don't want to role play the part of an aircraft owner, or in this aircraft, you could also role play as an aircraft renter, you have the option. You could not do that if you don't want to do that. All right, but this is what the exterior of the bird looks like, and obviously it is a thing of beauty. I know some people have complained that it's not as glossy or shiny as they would like, but you got to remember, this is a very old aircraft. It flew in the 50s. In fact, it was first given its shot at stardom in the TV show Sky King, which is an old TV show. We're talking like 1957 vintage here. So that's how long this aircraft has been flying. So you got to expect that if you run into these things in real life, chances are they're probably not going to be as new and shiny as you might expect. This is old technology that we're dealing with. And speaking of which, we're going to hop into the cockpit now, so that way you can see what all we have to deal with in the office. So let's go ahead and do that. Of course, Kara's in my way. Kara, even though I'm already sitting in the seat there, I'm going to be invading your personal space as I virtually climb over you to get to where I am. Okay, so now we are inside the cockpit. And as you can see, like I said, this is old tech here. So everything that you're looking at here is definitely a little bit vintage. No glass cockpit in this one. However, we do have some modern accoutrements that you may be used to. For example, the GPS system. We'll talk about that in a second here. But we've, for the most part, got analog gauges here. And I know a lot of people complain about aircraft that have modern glass cockpits. Me, personally, I don't have an issue with glass cockpits. It's fine for me. But I realize that not everybody sims like me. So sometimes you just want your old school steam gauges, and that's fine too. I don't mind using steam gauges or using a glass cockpit. But for those of you, I guess, aviation purists that do prefer your steam gauges, you will be pleased to know this one has the 6-pack and all the extra relevant gauges that you could want. And let's take a further look at the inside here. If we look to the back, well, first thing you're going to notice, these seats have seen better days. Holy crap. You want to talk about vintage? This is vintage right here. This is the kind of stuff that I remember flying in as a kid, where, the aircraft definitely had a ton of hours. It's probably been overhauled a couple of times and so on and so forth. It's definitely seen some stories to it. And that is what I love about aircraft like this. It's not shiny and new like the Carenado. You can tell this sucker's been lived in. And I really enjoy that. If there's a bad thing about this aircraft, which has nothing to do with the developer, just the design that Cessna chose for this, it's the fact that you literally have one door. So my beautiful co-pilot Kara here, if we are carrying passengers, she has to get out the plane and she has to fold her seat forward so that the passengers can actually get in and sit in the back. Heaven help us if we have any kind of an emergency. If we're going down, good luck getting out. Maybe if they ask Kara nicely. All right, so the meat and potatoes of this aircraft is all on this little EFB here. No doubt, if you're used to some of the more recent GA aircraft that have come out, you're probably used to seeing EFBs in them. This is no exception. There are 4 main sections to this, and before we actually get to the 4 sections that we're looking at here, I should tell you a little bit about the top end here. So you notice our registration. With this aircraft, you can individualize things. Depending on what registration or what livery you're using, you could have the sim either give all of the standard parameters that you chose for one plane to all of your versions of this plane, or you can individualize it so that only November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo will have the current state saved. And if you switch to a different livery, it may have a completely different state. So let's say, for example, you had a hard landing on a different aircraft, but you jump over to November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo, your tires will be fine, your brakes will be fine. If you jump back to the aircraft that you had the hard landing in, well, you're going to need to fix some stuff before you take off. And I'm going to show you how we can do all of that. So this, of course, is all of our main stuff that you can see. It's pretty self-explanatory. You got your nose baggage door, which opens up, and you can even put cargo in the nose baggage area, which I doubt we can really see. You can probably see the tip of the suitcase there. Maybe we can go back outside and take a look at it. Same thing for the rear baggage area. We can put baggage there, and we can open the door. And as a matter of fact, let me just break right there, and we'll go outside back to the drone camera view, and I'll show you the baggage sitting in there. All right, so if we look, we can see we've got Kara's little bag there that's got all her toiletries and makeup and all the various stuff that she needs when she's going on a trip. So all of that gets stuffed in there, and I want to say it might be related to the amount of weight that's added to the aircraft, but remember, you're not using the fuel and payload system to load this bird. You're actually utilizing the EFB, or the little iPad, to do that. So it may be random depending on how much weight you've got in there as to which pieces of luggage you actually see. Now, if there's a downside, I have not figured out a way to actually close this from the outside. You can only do it from the EFB. I haven't checked to see if you're in the inside view, if it'll allow you to activate the handle, but you definitely cannot do it from the outside. So that might be something that Milviz might want to work on for future iterations of this bird, just to kind of give us VR folks a bone so that we can manually close our doors. And if we go to the front of the aircraft here, you can see our main luggage. So this is my suitcase and Kara's suitcase with our clothes there. You can see we've got space for extra luggage there. So if we find ourselves with our center of gravity going a little bit too far back, we can opt to put more luggage in the front just to kind of balance ourselves out, which is a pretty neat little feature. All right, let's go ahead and hop back into the bird and we'll finish loading her up. All right, so now that we've got our baggage loaded, we can go ahead and close the baggage doors. So rear door, you'll hear that latch, and nose, you'll watch that come down. The sounds are incredible on this thing, by the way. Now, on the right-hand side, you'll see we can also add passengers. Let's go ahead and put them all in, but we're not going to keep them all in. We're only going to keep the back passengers in, just to kind of balance things out. But to show you what all the passengers look like, if we turn around, ta-da! You can see we definitely have a full house. And this guy here kind of looks like Fraser. Fraser, are you on board? Go ahead, caller. I'm listening. But yeah, you can see we've definitely got some people there. And I think the people do change, because the last time that I did a test flight, we didn't have Fraser back here. We actually had an elderly woman sitting here. So it seems to me like what the script is doing behind the scenes here is kind of balancing out the weights with the different models for passengers, which is really neat. You don't see stuff like that often. Usually they pick one model for the human beings and just stick with it. But we're going to go ahead and get rid of Fraser and his buddy there. So there we go. They are now gone. And of course, it'll balance out the weight. And we still have our lovely couple in the back that are hoping to get to the main island of Seychelles before nightfall. So you know what that means. We're going to need to get going soon. The other thing I want to call your attention to on this screen here is a passenger comfort index. To me, this is a little mini game. You'll notice that it's got a little meter there. We want to keep that meter close to 100. That determines how comfortable our passengers and ourselves are in the aircraft. So a lot of that will depend on whatever settings that we've got our cabin air and temperature control. Similar to, if you're traveling in your car and it's too hot, you turn on your AC. If it's too cold, you turn on your heat. That kind of thing. And that's not something that you see modeled a lot in aircraft for any flight sims. So it's really good to have this here. It's, like I said, it's a little mini game that we're going to be paying attention to. All right, so services. You can see there, this is where we add our fuel. It still has the 60% fuel tank, or fuel in the fuel tanks that I had from the last flight, because I had actually filled it up a little bit once I had left. And you can determine just how clean or dirty your aircraft is. That's all in the bottom. And it will change the textures. The textures will get more and more grimy as this thing gets more and more use, especially if you're coming into like bush strips and stuff like that. An interesting note about this aircraft, you see those nifty little fuel tanks on the wing tips? Those are your main tanks. The ones in the wings are considered the auxiliary tanks. I didn't know that about this bird, but that's a really cool feature. Your larger tanks are the ones on the wingtips. All right, moving forward. So we've got the various options, and this is what I consider the meat and potatoes of this aircraft. So you can choose whichever avionics you want. So depending on what you have installed as add-on, you can choose different GTNs, 750s, and so on. The initial state, you can set it to either an aircraft that you own or a rental. The idea behind a rental is there is no telling what condition this plane will be in once you get it. So keep that in mind. That's a little bit of randomness that's thrown in there. And of course, show user registration, pretty self-explanatory. That'll show you the November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo on the side. Remember that the other liveries have baked in registration. So if you do use any of those other liveries, just go ahead and turn this off. So that way you'll use the built-in registration that it comes with. These four are important. The individualization is what I told you about before. The engine realism, do you want to blow your engines or not? Yep. Systems realism, do you want to have the consequences of a really bad landing? Yep. And wear and tear, do you want this thing to naturally start losing oil or losing battery charge, so on and so forth? Yep, we want all of that. And failures, for the sake of this video, I'm going to leave it on never. Typically, I keep it on occasionally because you never know what's going to happen then. I kind of like to test myself from time to time. But for the purposes of this being a review video, we're going to keep it on never. And then finally, we've got the status screen. Now, the status screen is where you're going to check your aircraft pre-flight to make sure that everything is functioning. So what we'll do is we'll hit this little button that says inspect. We'll give it a second to do its thing, and then we're going to see colored lines that indicates to us what condition everything is in. So you'll notice our battery is good, our gear is good. Got a little bit of problem on the right brake, but it's not too bad. That was a previous landing that I had. I kind of came in a little hot, shall we say, and yeah, that happens. Cylinders, yeah, they're definitely getting used, and over time you're going to notice all of this stuff will go down as you add wear and tear to the bird. So it looks like everything is pretty much good, and I think with all of that having been done, I'm going to put it back to the regular configuration page because we're going to use the comfort index mini game later. But let's go ahead and get the front passenger door closed, and we'll hide the tablet. Okay, so now that the door is closed, we are also going to latch it. So there we go, it is latched. And now we're going to get ready to start. Now, typically you would use a checklist for this thing. It's me. So yeah, we're not going to use a checklist. All right, but let's see if I remember how to do this. Okay, first things first, we want our battery on, and my button is linked to both battery and alternator. So if I push it, everything comes up. All right, now the first thing I'm going to want to check is my fuel tanks. So the left side is pointing to green, the right side is pointing to green. That's our main tanks. That's exactly where I want it. And we're going to go ahead and get our prop pitch up to full prop pitch. There we go there. And we also want our mixture knob up. I know typically you can leave the mixture knob down and then lift each lever individually as you start the engines. However, I don't have separate mixture controls, so I just usually just keep everything up and running. We will, of course, need to prime the engine, and that is this switch here. A very important note, you do have auxiliary fuel pumps. Do not use those to prime the engines, especially if you've got engine realism on. You will flood your engine. You will not be able to start the aircraft. And it's actually 50-50 as to whether or not I'm going to be able to start this sucker on the first try, but we're going to give it a shot. Now, I have taken the liberty of turning the audio down a little bit. However, in the recording process, sometimes the audio can be a little bit loud. It does tend to try to balance out my voice with the engine audio. Sometimes I lose that battle. So if you have difficulty hearing me, I'll try to adjust as best as possible. Maybe I'll just yell a little bit louder, but obviously I don't want to do it too loud. All right. So it looks like everything's pretty much set to go. We can check our battery here. Okay, looks like we've got a fair amount of battery charge, so we should be able to start this thing. So let's get our magneto switches on, 2 for the left engine, 2 for the right engine. And we are going to prime her probably about 3-4 seconds. So right engine prime, 3-4 seconds. Left engine prime, 3-4 seconds. And I'm going to bring the throttle up to about idle. Okay, so before we do anything else, let's get our anti-collision lights on as well as our nav lights. There we go, both are good to go. And we're ready for a start. So we'll shout out the window clear. And hopefully I can get her started. Push the button. Oh, no start. Okay, we're probably going to need to prime her a little bit longer then. There we go, and let's try that. There we go. Just needed a little bit more gas, that's all. All right, let's do the same for the right engine. A little bit of extra prime. That should be good. And push the button. Well, no start on number 2. Let's try it again. Hopefully I won't flood this engine. Okay, looks like we got a good start on both. And let me just raise the throttles a little bit just to make sure that they're both idling at about 1,000 RPM. There we go, looking good, looking good. Okay, now it is getting a little bit louder, so we're going to go ahead and close our storm window here. There we go, and that'll attenuate some of the noise for us. Now, I happen to know that we're going to need to take off to the south, so let me set us up for a heading of about 150. That should be runway heading. And we can also get our master avionics switch on, so that is this guy here, which will, of course, also turn on our radio. So you can see GPS, we've got 2, the 530 and the 430. Everything looks good there. We're currently on standby. Based on the last flight that I flew, we were squawking 5773, so it's going to remain there. I'm going to set our altitude ahead of time to about 4,000 feet, and that'll be our cruise for this flight. And I should probably check on the passengers. Okay, right about there is good. That's fine. They should be okay. All right, Kara. Now is when I need you to handle the comms. So first of all, let me go ahead and open up our little menu here. And I need you to go AI communications. There we go. Close that out. This is a bug, by the way, in the current iteration of Microsoft Flight Simulator where all the menus or the pop-ups in VR are skinny. Hopefully it is something that they will address soon, but obviously it got missed in the last hotfix that we had. Okay, Kara, do your thing for me, please. Tune ground. and tell them we would like a south departure, please.
Ground November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo, ready to taxi south departure.
November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo taxi 2 and hold short of runway 15 via taxiway. Contact tower on 122 decimal tree when ready.
Sounds good to me.
Taxi 2 and hold short runway 15 via taxiway Alpha Golf Bravo.
All right, so now that Kara's taken care of that, let me go ahead and get our altimeter set here, because I know we are at sea level, just about. Probably about 20 feet, or maybe 10. So yes, that should be good. Flaps, let me see how we're doing on flaps. The flaps were down. I guess I had my lever down. I'm going to run it through the full flap settings here. Love it. And you can see the alternator drain there because this is electrical flap system. So every time the alternator needle moves, we can change that to each of those. Battery is definitely getting drained, but the alternators are on, so it should be charging itself up. All right, making sure that everything else looks kosher, and it certainly does. I am quite impressed with that. I'm going to change this to 7,000. 0, 0, 0. All right, and we're on standby. Very nice. Very nice. Okay, so the only other thing that we need to do now is we need to get our taxi lights on. And for some strange reason, I've noticed when you turn on taxi lights in Microsoft Flight Simulator in this build, it does tend to pause your sim. I don't know why that is. Oh, incidentally, all of these circuit breakers, they do work. They do work. All right, how about we get to runway 15 as we were requested to do. And we're going to go to the outside view as we taxi out, because we're basically going to need to make a U-turn and head the opposite way. Alright, so we are just about here. Now, we're going to need to do a lot of back taxiing, so just to forewarn you of that. Alright, let's get our parking brakes on. We'll get the rest of the lights on. So we want strobe. Turn you on. We want our landing lights, which are currently recessed, so we'll go ahead and extend those. And we'll need our pitot heat. Go ahead and get those on. I gotta remember to idle us around 1,000-ish, because otherwise my spark plugs could foul. We don't want that. Alright, does appear that everything else is looking good, so Kara, if you could please do me the honors and make them aware that we are needing to take off to the south.
Praslin Tower, November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo, ready for south departure at runway 15.
November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo, altimeter 29.85, wind 146 at 19er. South departure approved. Cleared for takeoff runway 15.
I'm checking my lights here.
Cleared for takeoff runway 15 Alpha Golf Bravo.
Okay, good deal. Alright, we may not need the fuel pumps on this one. I know normally you would set them to low, however, I think we should be fine. Don't anticipate there being too much of an issue. Check on the passengers again. It says the cabin is warm and steady, so they're going to need a little bit more air. So we'll go ahead and open up the cabin vent there. We'll also open up the forward cabin vent. So what we're going to notice is this little bar should start moving to the right as the cabin gets cool, and of course the little message at the bottom should change. So we'll check in on our passengers in a few. For now, we're going to need to back taxi, and like I said, it's going to take us a little while to get to the opposite end of the runway. So once again, we'll go to the exterior view, and when we come back, we will be ready for takeoff. So parking brakes off, and here we go. Alright, so we're just about at the end of runway 15, and obviously we're going to need to turn around here, so we're going to swing out to the left a little bit here. And even though the runway is long enough, I am actually going to start us out at the blast pad here, the little runway overrun area. So let me get us set up properly. It's a little bit of an angle here on this turnaround, I notice. There we go, and we'll go ahead and line ourselves up properly. Okay, so we do have some trees at the end there, so we're probably going to want to pull up and go pretty sprightly. So we'll go ahead and get everything set up here. Now, we are trimmed really high nose up. We don't want that, so we're going to lower our trim setting here a bit. It should be within the takeoff range. I find that I seem to get a better response if I keep it right at the edge of the takeoff range, but your mileage may vary. I'm sure you're probably tired of hearing that if you caught the recent 3 Grumpy Simmers episode. Alright, I'm hoping that my lights are working. Can't really see a backlighting on this instrument panel. I can see it on everything else, but I don't know. Alright, but either way, I think we're just about ready to go, so let me just do a final check. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes. Okay, everything is set. Kara, are you set? Kara looks set. Passengers, are you set? Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. I'm a professional. I'll get you there on time and alive. Alrighty, folks, you know what it's time for. Brakes down, throttles up. Brakes off, and it's going to get loud. Okay, so we're right about at the red line there. Nice and stable. Ground handling is perfect on this bird. And we're just about to go over our stall speed. Right about there, and let's rotate. Nice and easy. Try to avoid that stall horn. Okay, feeling good about this. Let's get the gear up. We're just over the trees, so I'm always good with that. Give it a little bit more trim. And keep heading on runway heading here. Now I will need to pull the RPM back. We don't want it to stay above the green for too long or over by the red line.
Alpha Golf Bravo, continue for south departure.
Praslin Tower, November 70, Alpha Golf Bravo, continue for south departure.
That's what we shall do. So we're heading straight for our first waypoint, and I'm going to want to set this up, the CDI that is, from VLOC to GPS. We do have the wind pushing us around a little bit here. There you can see Praslin, looking pretty as always. Gotta say, I'm pretty impressed with what FSDG was able to do. Some of the textures, the ortho photos that they used are a little bit iffy in places, But overall, they did a pretty good representation of these islands, so I gotta give them credit for that. Alright, we should be just about at our first waypoint, which is, of course, the time climb. And we're gonna want to veer left, so let's go ahead and do that now. Remember, we're going up to about 4,000 feet, so we should be pretty good. We'll try to keep our bank angle at a minimum. We don't want the passengers to get freaked out. And we will, of course, put on the autopilot in a moment. I'll wait till we get above 2,000 feet before I actually activate the autopilot. In the interim, let me get our landing lights brought back in, because they are still sticking out of the bottom of the aircraft. Or I should say the bottom of the wingtip. That should be recessing itself right now. And we definitely have a little bit of a crosswind going here. I'm kind of noticing that she wants to roll a little to the left. We can adjust for that though. We can set up our aileron trim, or even our rudder trim for that matter. That'll kind of get us back on course there. Okay, so the bulbs should be in now, so we're going to put our landing lights to the center position, which will deactivate the mechanism.
Alpha Golf Bravo, leaving my airspace frequency change approved.
Praslin Tower, November 70, Alpha Golf Bravo frequency change.
Alright, we'll let Kara do her
Approach
stuff to
November
get us
70,
on.
Alpha Golf
Try
Bravo
following.
is type twin Cessna 5 miles southeast of Praslin, 1,800 feet. Request flight following.
November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo approach. Squawk Tree 74.
Squawk Tree 74, Alpha Golf Bravo.
Alpha Golf Bravo radar contact 5 miles southeast of Praslin, 2,100 feet. Altimeter 29.85.
Let me change that.
Roger, Alpha Golf Bravo.
Okay, so now we can go ahead and put on the autopilot. So we'll get our master autopilot switch on, and we will get our nav hold on, so that will at least point us in the correct direction. And I'm going to go ahead and arm our 4,000 cruise and set up our vertical speed. 400 feet per minute should be fine. In fact, we could probably bump that up to about 500 feet per minute, and that should still be pretty comfortable for our folks in the back. Alright, there is not much else that we are going to need to do except maybe pull the RPMs back just a little bit more. We'll set it to about 2,400 RPMs right now, and we'll pull it back even further once we get into cruise. And same for our manifold pressure and of course our fuel air mixture with the mixture knobs. You can see right now we're drawing a fair amount of gas, but of course that will go down as I lean the mixture. We're going to do that in a moment. But before we do that, since we're passing these beautiful islands, maybe what we should do is we should take a musical break, and we'll go outside and check out what FSDG has provided for us with the Seychelles. I sincerely hope you enjoyed our little musical interlude, as we always do in these full production videos here. And it is just about sunset, and I hope our passengers are doing well. Let's check the mini game here. Yes, look at that. The cabin is comfortable but cooling slowly. Alright, so that means we can probably close this up a little bit here. That way they don't get too cold. There we go. And that should keep them pretty much happy. We know they have no complaints about my flying, so we are doing pretty good. I'm quite enjoying this. And that, I think, is one of the key things to take away with this aircraft. It is extremely enjoyable. I know I said in the beginning, not everybody is like me and enjoys the quote-unquote joys of airplane ownership with everything that it comes with, both positive and negative. But at least for me, this is the kind of stuff that really makes me feel at home in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I thoroughly enjoy having an aircraft that basically feels like it's alive. It feels like it's something you need to take care of. There's responsibilities involved with that. And I greatly appreciate Milviz for bringing that level
Alpha
of
Golf
realism.
Bravo contact Seychelles Center on 120.2. Good day.
Kara, you got that?
120.2 for Alpha Golf Bravo.
Of course you do, because you're Kara.
Seychelles
You are
Center,
awesome.
November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo 4,000 feet.
Checking
November
in here.
70 Alpha Golf Bravo Seychelles Center altimeter 29.85. Continue as planned.
Okay, so we are going to pull back our RPM, so the prop pitch is going back. You can see our manifold pressure is roughly around 21 inches, which is fine for this. Looks like our temperature and pressure, as well as cylinder head temperature, are all fine. Cylinder head temperature is kind of rising up a little bit there, and we do definitely need to clean our mixture. So let's go ahead and do that now. We're watching the EGT gauge on the far right there. Notice the needle's coming up, and we're going to lean it just lean of peak. So that's about peak there, so we'll pull it back just a touch. There we go. Right about there should be good, and now we're pretty much sipping gas. Now we're about to overfly Fregat, so I'm going to quickly go to the outside view so that you can take a look at that island. Needless to say, we cannot land there because that is a grass strip that is way too short. Alright, so we've just made the turn from Fregat, and we are now heading towards the big island in the Seychelles, so we can actually take a look at our flight plan really quick here. Okay, and I'm going to hit the cursor. And let's see, let's go down here. Okay, so there are our waypoints. So as you can see, FS776 is where we're headed right now. It's about 10 miles away from us, 10 and a half. And then we've got the waypoints 25 nautical miles, which I'm assuming means 25 nautical miles from the airport. I don't know, I could be wrong. It does say that it is 7.9 miles away from there. So regardless, that's going to be our turnaround point. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to follow the inner coast of the island that's facing us right now. And we're basically going to make a left-hand bank to get ourselves on final to come down at the international airport. So in the interim, let me check everything to make sure that we are still good. Because remember, I've got full realism on, so I do need to pay attention to everything that's going on in this bird. So far, it looks like we're doing pretty good. Alternator's still doing alternatory things. And of course, everything else appears to be great. Now, if we run into any issues with icing, we do have anti-ice capabilities here, so we could activate that. However, that should not be a concern because, after all, we're in the Seychelles. It doesn't get much more tropical than this. One thing I am going to do, though, you'll notice those clouds are coming up, and I really didn't plan for any IFR flying, so I'm actually going to bring us down to about 2,000 feet, and we're going to hold it there as we bring ourselves in. So let's see, 2,800, and put this down. There we go. We'll get our vertical speed up, and we'll start bringing the bird down slowly. I think 400 feet per minute descent should be fine. And we'll leave the prop pitch and the mixture controls as they are until we get to 2,000, and then we'll go ahead and make the mixture rich again. But yeah, it's going to be a short hop. You can already see the island directly ahead of us, and as soon as we get below these clouds, you'll be able to see it even better. Now, one negative that I've noticed about this FSDG scenery, which I don't think necessarily is the developer, I think that may be whatever I've got my settings in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I have noticed when you are further out, the ortho photos will not res. It'll appear white. And at first I thought that it might have been, you know, some kind of an artifact. I'm seeing clouds on the planet or something like that. But it turns out that it's actually the orthophoto scenery had not yet rendered. Again, I'm not going to pin this solely on FSDG because it could very well be whatever my settings are in Microsoft Flight Simulator. But it does make it look a little odd when you're seeing an island directly ahead that you know is one solid island, yet because of the white sections of it, it looks like 2 or 3 broken up islands. Obviously that's not correct. But it will appear shortly, and you should be able to see all of the island pretty soon. Alright, now we do have lighting in here. The question is, how do I turn it on? Because I've never actually played around with this stuff at night. Is it this switch back here? No, I don't think it is. Forward cabin lights. There we go, that's what. Alright, look at that. That is awesome. Now it's actually too bright. I'm going to turn it down a bit. Too much. There we go. All right, that'll work. And also, we do have these window shades. They do work. I had tried them in bright daylight. And yeah, they actually do what they're supposed to do, which is amazing. Again, stuff like that is really what makes me love an add-on. And I just can't speak any more highly about this particular add-on. Milviz has absolutely knocked it out of the park. I dare say they're going to make me a fanboy, as if I wasn't a fan of their aircraft already from FSX days. Okay, that is our little warning that we are within 1,000 feet of our target altitude, so we should be just below 3,000 right now. And once we get to 2,000, we should be good. You will notice as we pass through the cloud deck, there is a little bit of turbulence. Turbulence is a thing that a lot of VR pilots have been saying is not modeled well in Microsoft Flight Simulator. It doesn't really feel like it's throwing you around. But the thing we have to remember as VR pilots, however, is the fact that what we're looking at with this headset is greatly dependent on our head position. So if our head is static, it's not going to look like things are moving around a lot. You would actually have to do one of this number where I'm kind of bouncing in my seat here to really make it appear like we're being bounced around. Now, if you've got something like, say, the butt kicker or one of the other audio-based things that will actually make it feel like you're moving around, that can have the effect that you're looking for because, of course, as your body vibrates, so will your headset, so it'll feel like you're going through turbulence. but still it's not perfect, and that is a bit of a caveat that we have to deal with as VR pilots. So please keep that in mind. It's not necessarily that the sim doesn't model turbulence properly. It really does, but you're just not feeling it as well as you probably should. Now, there are things that you can do to help with that. For example, FS Realistic, which I do not currently have. However, that is an add-on that you can add in there that will add a little bit of shake and shimmy for you if that's the kind of thing that you're looking for. Alright, so it looks like we are getting ready for our approach. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and get our landing lights on. Pop those out. And we will pull our mixture knob back up to full. I'm going to get the RPM up as well. I'm only going to set it to about 2400. I know that you really want to have it on full prop pitch once you actually are on approach, so that way you have enough engine power to go around if need be. But we'll deal with that momentarily here. Right now my key thing is to make sure that we are slow enough, because you will notice we are just over 170 knots. I'm not going to be landing at that speed. We're going to be making a pretty sharp left turn here, so we got to make sure that we do this quickly. So I'm pulling the throttle back now. I don't want to go too far, otherwise it will yell at you. Let me demonstrate. It's bound to yell at me at some point. There it is. That's because we are too low and the gear is still up. But take a look at Victoria. Wow, that is awesome. As we make our way around, I'm going to go back to the outside view so that you can take a better look at Victoria at dusk. Got to think about landing, so we're going to go ahead and turn the autopilot off, and we're going to fix our trim. Since we are definitely at the speed we want to be, we'll go ahead and get our gear down.
Alpha Golf Bravo 5 miles northwest, 1,800 feet to land.
November 70 Alpha Golf Bravo Tower. Altimeter 29.85, wind 135 at 20. Make straight in runway 13.
Runway 13 it is.
Bravo, wind 135 at 20.
Let's get our flaps.
Cleared to land runway 13.
Fly straight in runway 13 Alpha Golf Bravo.
Did you tell them we're cleared to land? I don't think she did. We're actually below glide slope right about now. Alright, so I'm going to pull the power back a little bit here. We want to be on the blue line. You can see the blue line just above the 100 there. That's our approach speed. We are a little below glide slope, but that's okay. I'm going to give us a little bit of power here. And I'm going to trim us up so that way we can maintain our forward airspeed. Alright, right about there. Okay, looking good, feeling good. We've got takeoff flaps. We're going to put the full flaps down. And now that my landing gear is down, I can also turn on my taxi lights. So there we go. Alrighty, folks in the back, I hope you're ready. We are coming in. And we'll make make a quick view outside as we work our way down. Just a touch here, and that'll start getting us down a little bit more, because as you can see, we're now slightly above the glide slope. But other than that, we're looking pretty good. There you can see the main airport. Now we're actually going to be parking over by the general aviation section and not by where all the tube liners park. But at least you can see 747s, 737s, and other big birds just kind of sitting there. I'll show it to you in the outro when we do the theme song here. But other than that, we're just about set to land, so let's go ahead and bring her in nice and easy. Probably going to get the stall horn up. Power back. And flare. We're down. Nice and easy. I love it. Absolutely love it. And she stays exactly where I put her. The ground handling is just sublime on this thing. This is so great. All right, now I need my turn off. And I have no idea where that is.
Alpha Golf Bravo, turn next taxiway.
Okay, will do. All right, so that's on standby. I am looking for a hangar building. I think I see it right there. Let me put the mouse cursor on it. So right about there should be where we're going. Okay, and folks, welcome to Seychelles. In particular, welcome to Victoria, Seychelles. Absolutely beautiful place. This is one of those bucket list items for me. If I had the money and the time, I would definitely love to fly to this area.
Alpha
This
Golf
is just
Bravo, turn
absolutely
next
beautiful.
taxiway.
I can imagine I would have a lot of fun in a place like this. All right, is this our turn off here? I can't tell. I do see a light there, so I'm assuming it is. So we'll go ahead and get off the runway here. Let's get our flaps up. Yep, looks like an awful skinny taxiway, but we're gonna go for it. There we go. Yep, this is where I want to be.
Alpha Golf Bravo, contact ground on 121.9er.
Okay. Kara?
Going to 121.9er Alpha Golf Bravo.
All right, now where are we going to park? Yeah, that's going to be an interesting parking spot. I don't think we want to do that. That's going to be crazy. A little bit of break here. How am I going to get into that spot? I'm going to knock this guy over here. Pardon my wings. Yeah, don't ask me how this is going to work, folks. Well, that was close. Okay. Let's turn left here. Lady, you are in the wrong place at the wrong time. But you know what? This is good enough for government work. So we're going to park it right here and get the parking brakes on. Whew. That was an awesome flight. I gotta say, I thoroughly enjoyed that one. Milviz, you done did good. I'm going to give you full credit on this one. You really did a phenomenal job on this bird. And I just realized I forgot to put my prop pitch back up, but that's okay. I'm pretty sure that our passengers won't complain. Okay, and we'll go ahead and open the door while we're at it here. Another cool little thing about this door, when you turn on the engines, the door gets blown back the same way as it would in real life because of the prop wash, which is really neat. Really freaking neat. All right, but that will just about do it for me, folks. So thank you, as always, for watching. This has been BelGeode, and of course, I have been in Microsoft Flight Simulator. The aircraft that we have been showcasing today has been the Milviz Cessna C310R. An absolutely incredible plane, one of my favorite twin-engine aircraft. And I gotta say it again, Milviz, you done did good on this one. I am really, really impressed with how you were able to pull this aircraft off. You did a phenomenal job. The scenery that we've been showing off today is by FSDG. It is their Seychelles Islands package. Remember, you get multiple airports. You get the airport that we took off from, the airport that we just landed at, as well as roughly about 14 or so smaller airstrips on the various islands around the Seychelles. You can pick it up in the in-sim marketplace. You can also pick up the aircraft there in the in-sim marketplace, or you can go to the other links that I will have listed in the video description below. Alrighty folks, that will just about do it for me. So I've got to go through the whole shutdown procedure here and make sure that I leave this aircraft the way I would like to have it for the next time that I fly it. So while I'm doing that, I am going to be saying my goodbyes to you. Thank you as always for watching, and please, if you enjoy what you have seen, be sure to give me a like, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. Alrighty folks, I will talk to you all really soon, and until next time, I bid you all adieu. Ciao!